All right, it's 11:05, so we'll get started and we'll just let people in as they come in still. Thank you everybody for attending today. Asyma Solutions in partnership with ProcessPro, James Ross and Rob Reinking, are going to be taking us through how to use process mapping to reduce user error and inefficiencies in your financial systems. I believe most of you should already know me, Rob with Asyma Solutions. I'm an account manager and a partner here. And so we try and put on educational webinars and sessions on a monthly basis for our customer base that are using Sage Software Solutions. And excited to bring you the ProcessPro today and walk you through that webinar. So Rob and James, if you guys wanted to introduce yourselves and start off.
Excellent. Thanks, Rob. Yes, my name's Rob Reinking. I'm the Director of Global Business at ProcessPro, and I'd like to introduce you to James Ross, my CEO, who will be presenting today. And good morning to everybody. Thank you very much with Asyma, our VAR partner for the last eight or 9 months. We've been working feverishly with features and in business processes that will really help customers, the team that are coming on today, to look at the way you do business with your ERP. So we're going to go through very quickly is an introduction, our vision statement, what we do. We're going to talk about the several problems we see with over 1,000 interviews we've had with customers around the world, the problems that we see with, and we're hoping that you will sit back and absorb some of that and look at your business, probably outside your department, and look at some of the departments that you have and how you do business. The principal thing today we are talking about is process mapping. I think many are familiar with Visio and Lucid Charts over the years, that whole process of how you actually work workflows. And what we're going to really concentrate on today is working within the ERP to going with beyond the ERP and some of the things you can do now with the latest generation process mapping. During the presentation, this will be about an hour. It is recorded. If you'd like to switch off your microphones, and also if you'd like to use the chat session, which should be on your MS Teams viewer. If you have any questions during the session, if James is doing the presentation, I will probably answer those during the session, and we may raise those as Q&A after the session. So I'll just go back. And so our vision statement was really important to us for managers and teams who want predictable outcomes, reduced risk, improved customer experience. ProcessPro is the process management platform that empowers teams to consistently and efficiently deliver quality products and services. Just let someone join on there. And so what we're going to talk about is about 15 points of value that we've seen that's been very obvious to organizations. And one of the critical ones is finding that process, that have been stored in physical folders or binders or on your Z drive as an organization. And it's also separate, possibly between your departments. We've looked at that and we've resolved that by having all your processes in one library, and James will go through that during the presentation. Because the process simply does not exist, then there's a real problem we'll talk about with the use of AI. Processes that are left the building when employees leave. That is such an important thing, and it came up during COVID with so many people working from home and said, I can't complete this workflow. I'm not sure how to get out of ERP and go into other areas. Well, we solved that using ProcessPro. For many people that have joined, say, your organization, is where do I start? Where are the processes? There's so many of them. Which one is the accurate one that I've got to work with? Well, this process might be a few years old, and so which is the correct version? It's one of those areas that you think about it, could be a problem, maybe not for you and your processes, but could be for some of your staff. The other one is also interpretation. Is it legible? What was it that can I read what was written? Does it make sense as an organization? And am I wasting my time and frustrated because it was never tested or published that everybody in the organization could really look at it? Now, was it expired now to date? If the process was just a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet or PDF, it could be years old, but you may not know. So that's an important thing to consider. Who do I tell if I find something wrong with the process? And it may be critical. What we found is some organisations, as they do audits, you may have hazardous materials in a warehouse. What was the procedure? What's your liability as an organisation and the risk? And so that could be important. Can I locate the person in the warehouse? Who's doing what, and how do I give feedback to actually correct a new procedure? Updating and sharing. I've got some new ideas of how the organisation could do it better, but I don't know who to tell because it may not be structured in your organisation. How do I share my process across all the people in the organisation, and who is actually responsible? ProcessPro has resolved that by being role-based, and we'll discuss more about that shortly. And then there's that frustration we see right across many of the Western countries. You can tell by my accent, I'm Australian. James, my CEO, New Zealand. We have staff across Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, and shortly, possibly South Africa and Central Europe. And what we find is, of course, people are getting frustrated in their organizations when they don't see an attempt to modernize, to really take the first steps to digitization. That's what process mapping does, and that's what ProcessPro has really achieved. Is there a structure here? Is this time consuming the way I do it currently? Now, loss of clients increase. You may have clients yourself where you're using a help desk, but your help desk doesn't consistently give the same answer to your customer and how you do your procedures, making payments, how you deliver to your customer, whatever that business workflow is. It's so important to get it right the first time. And sometimes staff realize that you're losing your own clients because of that. Processes often stop when people are absent, and that's quite important. Do you have a substitute? Do you have a standby person that knows that if the CFO is away for 3 weeks, does someone take over those processes? Just stop to think about that today, and please ask questions about your company and how you operate. And so how long does it take and what's the cost? That is so critical. Why Asyma work with you, for example, to introduce third-party products to your ERP system. And that's how we work with Asyma, finding that this is the current way you may do something, but there may be a future process that says by using this third-party product, you may do it faster, you may do it more efficiently, and most of all, you reduce costs in doing it. And that's what we want to achieve with you as our real customer through Asyma. Someone else is writing the same process. This we come across all the time. Some great initiative from great staff that you may have, and but no one's talking to each other, or you don't have a single library of managing all that. And we'll cover that today, how that's done efficiently and correctly. This is a hard one. Seasonal employees. You may be employing people for over Christmas or over the summer holidays that are coming up. That could be resolved as well, where we even have what we call the horizontal view of processes that are very simple for people to understand, even in a warehouse situation where it's just a block view by color code that says, I'm the warehouse supervisor, here's the functions that I need to do today to do my work. And we resolve that by using ProcessPro. And so the process creation, we've just released our LMS onboard online training to make it life very easy for all our customers. And that's what it's all about, time and cost. It's one of the most critical issues that we address daily, and we resolve it using ProcessPro. And process acknowledgement, that's again an area that needs to be handled by you and your staff and your senior management getting together and say, where are the best outcomes for our organisation? And so to resolve all these 14 points, it's really ProcessPro. We've spent the last year and a half really fine-tuning this product. We hope you like the presentation today. Please think about your organisation as James goes through it, and look at the way you can improve it through with Asyma, who is your ProcessPro VAR, to move forward. And without further ado, I hope you have a pleasant presentation, and I'll hand you over to James. Thank you, James.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, I'm just going to share my screen. And it takes a while. Right, so just want to go through this high-level overview of ProcessPro and what it's all about. As Rob mentioned in the presentation, a lot of organizations don't know where their processes is. They don't have that central point of processes. So we think that, well, we know that with ProcessPro, you've got that central repository. Also, keep in mind that ProcessPro is web-based. So anything that you do is immediately available for everyone across the world, really. But inside of the organizations, the information is immediately available for anyone to see. So when you log into ProcessPro, what you get is you get the dashboard. So on the dashboard, you will see that I've ticked there. I want to see the processes where I've got some sort of a relationship with those processes. So I'm either the process owner, so I own the process, or I'm a participant in that process. So um, this is where that whole role-based mechanism is coming in. So the whole system is built around the different roles that we have or that you have in your organization. And you can immediately see the processes that you are responsible for. So this is a very nice thing if you've got someone new in the organization and the first day they log into ProcessPro and they already get a list of all the processes that is applicable to them. So finding the different processes, so I've got obviously my list of processes that is very important, but let's say there's another process in the organization that I need to look at. I've got two ways of doing that. I can either go to the directory and look at a list of all the processes in the organization, and let's say I want to do apply for annual leave. I'll just go and click on that process, and that will open up the process for me. Now, if you're a little bit familiar with tools like Visio, you will notice that it looks very similar to something like that, where you have your different swim lanes, as we call it, or responsibility areas, and then you've got the different activities that you need to perform, or that those people have to perform. And then what we also have is so normally what we say is the activity is what needs to happen, but how do I then complete the leave form? And that is where you have the different steps. So on the side here, you can see the different steps that you have. You can attach documents or web links. You can even have notes explaining more detail for you on what it is that you need to do. So if we look a little bit into navigating further on the process, Rob was talking about, you don't always have the latest version available to you, or you go into an organization and you want to apply for leave, but hey, how do you know that this is the latest version? So we've got that very clear at the top here. Version control, you can see when last it was updated, and then we've got a list of history records as well. And I will go through, and when I publish this process, you will see that new records get added into the history that you can always go back to and have a look to see what the process looked like at that point in time. Yeah, so as I mentioned, we are very, very role-based on the application. So everything is making sure that the users and the is assigned to their different roles. So here you can see we've got the payroll officer is responsible for process leave application, and you can see there, because we don't have a person or a user in the organization associated with the payroll officer, we've got that yellow triangle coming up so that you can see, oh, we need people associated with that role. Now, it's important to have those associations, because later on you'll see that we've got tasks and notifications that are generated in the system. So every time that there's changes or that you make a publish to the process, or even those acknowledgements that some of the last things that Rob talked about, all of those things come through as notifications and tasks in the system. So everything that changes, everyone will be notified of those changes in the process, which is great because, you know, if you work in an organization, the communication pieces is not always there where people go in and make sure that, you know, I've updated the process, but now I've also communicated and shared those details with someone. Right, so that's just quickly the high level now. If you look at a process, we've got what we call process stakeholders. So a stakeholder is someone that can make a change on the process, and then you've got your process viewers in the organization. So it's someone that can just view and the details of the process. Now, as a stakeholder, I can edit, I can delete the tasks, I can edit the tasks, I can see the list of stakeholders, you know, who in the organization are my different stakeholders. And I can go in and I can make small changes. So I just want to show you how easy it is to actually go in and make a change. So I just open up that activity, then I assign this to the all staff role. And when I do that assignment of that activity, you can see there the map immediately refreshes and updates, and that information is changed. Now, I don't know how many of you tried to work or worked with Visio previously. I did that 20 years long as a business analyst, and I can tell you it would take me half a day to figure out what is the different steps in the details on the process, and then probably the 2 days to make sure that the lines don't cross. With ProcessPro, you know, any user can really come in and add details, and don't have to worry about the map generation. The system automatically generates the map for you. For instance, if I want to add another activity in there, I can just go in and say, let's say complete leave tasks. So that is my activity. I decide what it is, and then I assign that to all staff, and I just add that activity in there, and you can see there immediately it comes up into my process. So that's how easy it is to actually go in and make changes. Now, because this is a draft process, what you would sometimes would like to do is actually share this with someone inside or outside of the organization, that they can give you some feedback on that process. So we've got the share option. So if you take the share option and you paste that or send that link to someone, you know, what you will get is, or what they will see is, a version of ProcessPro. They don't have to log into the system to actually look at that. So this is very handy, and you can also see what has happened is it has changed the view slightly. We call this the embedded role view, where you can still see the who's responsible for it, but you've got a linear display. So for non-technical users, and sometimes, you know, just users in general, they like to see a view where they can just see the different steps and who needs to perform it in a linear fashion, rather than trying to read the different swim lanes. Now, these swim lanes here is actually very easy. You can imagine if I've got 6 or 7 different roles performing activities in my process, it becomes a really, really big process. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you know, only my stakeholders can make changes to the process. So if you're not named as a stakeholder, what can you do? Or if you've sent this process to someone else and you shared that process, you know, how can they come back and actually give you information on that process? So for that, we've got the feedback option. So in the feedback, anyone with a link to the process can actually send you feedback. And this is very handy because, again, we keep everything together. So you don't have to manage a list of Visio diagrams as your processes, and then have a bunch of emails on the side and try to marry these things up to see, you know, what needs to happen where. So you can just immediately go in, or someone can go in and they can add a note. So let's say here, What happens? What happens if the leave has been declined? Right. So, it is. I'm still logged in, so that will come through. And what you will see here, if I go, excuse me, to my process, immediately that comment is in there. And then I just want to show you, as our process owner, because I'm the process author, but our HR manager, which is Angelina Jolie, she also received a notification. So if I go in onto her login and look at her notifications, you can see there's a feedback. What happens if the leave has been declined? So as the stakeholder, you get that notification and you can immediately act on those items that's coming in. So we can go in and we can say, all right, James, please add more details to cover the declined request. Oops. All right, we'll post that in. And if I, again, the person that submitted the request on a reply, they get that notification. So everyone is happy that that they know what is happening with this. So what I want to do now is I want to quickly add a decision point in here to say, all right, what has happened. So when after the approval, I can then go in and I can say, all right, I want to add a decision point, and that is what if the leave is declined, right? And then we will assign this to the payroll officer. And we've got a few options in there, but we're just going to say, all right, for this particular title, we want to say that inform staff via email that request was declined. Oh my goodness. Right, and we'll add the decision point in there. So there you can see, let me just make that a little bit smaller, maybe hide that sidebar there. I can make that bigger again. So there's that decision point coming in, and we've pretty much done, that feedback that has come in. So now you can see the end to end. We were busy creating the process. We send it for feedback. We got feedback from someone. Then we added the details to the process, and we reply to the feedback to say that we've done it, or that we've assigned it to someone. So all of that is obviously done at the same time in ProcessPro. Now, I'm looking at this process, and we've got Angelina out there doing something. But if I'm busy editing the process, I've got no idea really what it needs to happen in the next step. So what I can do is I can actually send this to request details from somebody else. So if I go in there and I say, all right, let's request details, I can request this from an internal person. But what is really great is sometimes you've got a process that you need to talk to your accountant or auditor or lawyers, or someone outside of the organization, maybe a consultant that you have. So what you can do there is you can then send them an email. So if I go and I send, let's say I send Darren an email, and I say, oops, sorry, that needs to go there. And then I say, Darren, and then I say, please complete these steps. Okay, now Darren doesn't know that this is coming, so I might send this to Rob. And I think that is the right address there for you, Rob. But anyway, so I'll send that details in. Now, what will happen is Rob will get an email, but also as the person that is sending that information, I will also get an email as a, just to have that email track. And it's really simple. It just says, hi, Darren. Oops, sorry, I should have changed that. James Ross requested information on that process. Please complete the steps. Here's the link. All right, great. So let's open up the link. And there I go. So again, I don't have to log into ProcessPro to get this information. If I'm not sure what this is all about, I can go up and I can look at the process and I can say, oh, okay, this is the process. So let me look at that. So inform information. So, and I'm just going to put in there a few things, so the first one is complete, or no, let's just say, oh yeah, complete an email template with the declined reason. And then we're going to add another task in there, and that would be send email to staff member. And let's just say compliment them on their effort. All right, and let's say this is Rob now. So Rob submits that details for me and it's great. I come back to the process and all of that information is now in this activity, but I first have to refresh. So let me refresh the screen and go to that activity. And there you can see, there's the stuff that I've entered. Complete an email template with the declined reason, send email to transfer member, staff member, and complete them or compliment them on the effort. There we go. So it's that easy to get information from external people into the process. Now, a few more things on the process. Currently, it's in draft mode. So what I want to do is I want to publish this process. But before I publish the process and actually go through it, we've got this mechanism in here that is acknowledge changes on publish. So I'm going to switch that on. And what that is going to give me is everyone that is associated with this process. Now, when they get this notification, they or when they get the publish, with the publish, they will also get a notification that says, hey, you need to actually acknowledge that you have read this process and that you understand that process. And I think there's a big gap in organizations where, yes, we've got the processes and we put the processes somewhere in a folder or in a binder for someone to read, but we never really know that they've actually done that. Now, before I actually publish this process, one thing that I want to do is I just want to assign someone to this payroll officer, because at the moment, if you look at it, we don't have anyone associated with the process. Yes, we've got the all staff, but then we don't have anyone else. So I'm just quickly going to go in as the admin. So that's on my other screen here as the admin. I will go in and I will say, the roles, and then I go to the payroll officer. So I've got the payroll officer there, and then I'm going to assign users to that role. So I'm going to say Steven Spielberg will be our payroll officer. Right, cool. Now, again, because I've assigned Steven, if I refresh my process, you will see that that triangle disappears. So, now I know, okay, that's great. We've got someone assigned to it, and I can click that switch, and I can see, okay, Steven Spielberg is actually responsible for doing that, those tasks there. All right, so now let's go in. I've got my acknowledgement switch on and I'm going to publish the process. So publishing the process is, and I'm just going to put in here, updated process with declined reason. So I give it, oh my goodness, what am I struggling? Give it a little bit of a summary as to what the changes is on the process, and I'll show you where that comes through. Great. So our process has been published. it says that it's published, successful, and immediately you can see the acknowledgement button that comes up for me. Because I'm a stakeholder in the process, I'm the author on the process, so that's why I'm getting that notification. But also, all the other stakeholders that we have, so Steven Spielberg and Angelina. Angelina is the owner. There's it's a task that needs to be performed. The acknowledgement is a task. It's not just a notification. So when Angelina gets that task, she clicks on it, goes to the process, looks at the history, see that's update process with the declined reason. So there's the declined reason, great, and acknowledge. We've got a little bit of a, do you acknowledge, blah, 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 and I accept. So I acknowledge that process, and there we go. So Angelina has done her acknowledgement. I can go in, I can do my acknowledgement, and then we'll have a report at the end for the admins to actually look at who has acknowledged the processes and who has not. So really powerful way of making sure that everyone looked at the processes that they have. Now, I said that I want to show you the history. So here we've got a few history items. So let's say I want to go in and I want to see on the 18th of April, what did this process look like? So I can go back to version 1.8. So I'll go back to that version, and there we go. So you get a historical version, and then you can reinstate that version as your current version. So what it will do is it will override the existing with that historical version. I don't want to do that right now. All right, so you can see how easy it is to update the process, to publish a process, to also all the communications that went in with that. One of the things that Rob talked about was time and cost on a process. Now, for that, what you can do is on an individual process, you can actually switch on the time and cost analysis, and that will give you a list of all the staff members or the roles that we have in the organization and their average cost. So I've just used some cost per hour that I've just done the calculation on. Now, the hours currently is 0. So if I go back to my process, because I've switched on, sorry, that's the wrong button. Because I switched on the time and cost analysis, now when I open up an activity, you will see here, which wasn't there previously, is now we've got the process time and the wait time. So let's say processing that application takes us 15 minutes. That is a very long time to process a leave application, but we don't have to wait for anyone. So there's no wait time for that. So we will, oh, sorry, that is 15 hours. That's not going to work. So let's just do partial. Okay, so we update that. And then we say approve the leave application. So let's say maybe that takes us a very small period of time, but we've got to wait for the manager about 2 hours to get that done. So you can go through and you can add all of those values in. What I want to show you is if I go to the time and cost, you can see there those times now comes through. We've got the cost, and then we've got a calculation. Now, what is nice about ProcessPro is a user can also come into the time and cost, but they won't see the cost analysis part. So they won't see the cost and the total that you have, because we're hiding it. So there's only certain people in the organization that can see that. You can enable that as an admin. You can enable people to actually see the cost component on a process. But by default, it's not available for users to see. They can see the time, so they can see how long it actually takes to perform something. And you'll notice here that the time there shows 2.1. That is that 2 hours wait plus the 0.1, which is the actual time that it takes. So we show the total time here. And now I can do a comparison. So I can go in and I can look at a future state. I can look at a historical, which doesn't really make sense because none of my historical versions had any times on them. But I can also look at another process that we have. So I can compare this maybe with the month-end journals. You won't compare a annual leave with month-end journals, but you might have two leave processes that you have in different departments that you compare. Just want to show that you can actually do that comparison on any process. And what it does is it looks at really just the first activity, the second activity, the third activity. So it just compares those. It doesn't make, check to see that it's the right or the same text. Or if we go and we compare it to a historical version. So yeah, as I said, because I don't have any times on those processes, I don't see the movements up and down. And then I can also go to the calculation details. So in here, I can now look at it and I can get a bigger picture around, if I have cost of materials that I need to add to my time and cost, because anything else that we need in them, maybe we have a transport component or a warehousing component that you need to add in there. Also, you can look at how many times is this process actually performed. So let's say we do this on a weekly basis and it's performed 5 times a week. Right, so that will give you the total process cost per annum on doing that process. Let's just take that comparison out. All right, now on the map, we can also see the time and cost if we embed the roles into the activities. So remember, when we share a process, we've got those embedded view. So on my map, I can do that as well. I can actually say that I've got an embedded view. And when you do it like that, that's when we will show you the time bar at the bottom so that you can see what is the time it takes, what is the wait time before I actually do it, and then it's got a time calculation or a cumulative time of 2.25 hours to perform the whole process, just because those activities don't have any times associated with them. Great. All right, so that's the time and cost analysis. Really, really great feature. I've shown the published process. I think what I want to show now is one of the things. Oh, sorry. Before I get to the import options, I do just quickly want to show you the export. So let's say we've got a new person starting in the organization, and we need to and they want to take leave, and they need to step through all these different steps. So what we can do, or what you can do, is you can export. Now we've got a few options on the export. I've just enabled Smartsheet and Microsoft Excel, but we can also have export to Asana, export to Cantata. So all of those are available as well. But I just want to export my process to Smartsheet for now. So the export will create you a task list that you can then run through. So if I open up my Smartsheet, just want to show you how it comes through there. So there we go. There's my, oh, it's probably very small. So there's my activities and my different tasks. And you can see they're assigned to someone. Some of these are assigned to Steven Spielberg because he was responsible for them. The others are to my owner, Angelina, because yeah, it's just if we don't find a user associated, we will use the owner of the process. So a really great mechanism if you've got any process. Now you've got to think about your Sage environment as well, because ProcessPro is an add-on. So well, sorry. It's not an add-on. It's a standalone, but it will map the process end to end. So it will show you the interaction from the different users, even if they are in different departments, what they need to do to get a task done. Okay, so that's the export. Now, one of the things that people is saying is, this is great, but it's going to take us a very long time to get our processes into this environment. So what we have built is we've built some import. So I'm just going to call this process import sample. Oh, so by the way, this is how I can create a process. I decide who's the process owner, what is the group where that process is, and then I go in and I can create. Now I don't have anything there, or I can add a decision point, an activity or process link. But for this example, what I want to show you is our import feature. So with our import, we've got a few things. So you can either import a document, a Word document, a PDF, or a Visio diagram. So you can import any of those. But I think before I go to the documents, let me just show you a little bit about the generate with AI. So we integrate with ChatGPT. Most of you probably heard about that. And what it is, so I'm just going to put in here, apply for annual leave. Now, I know that is the process that we've just went through. Oh, sorry. But let's see what ChatGPT comes back with. So I go in and I say apply for annual leave. That is the process that I want to look at. And there we go. So it tells me that these are the different activities that we could have. Determine the date for your leave. Speak to your supervisor to discuss it. Oh, that's probably much better than my process, because, you know, I just assume that the supervisor will grant me the leave. Prepare the written leave application, submit leave application. Oh, this is amazing. So if that is the process, now I can open up my existing process and I can do exactly the same. I can say generate from AI. It gives me all of this information, and then I just drag whatever I need onto the canvas and it will start building the process for me. And there you can see. And then once I've got all that information in there, I can then go in and I can make changes. So I can say, all right, this is actually the all staff role. So I need all staff in there. And I can carry on and make the changes. If I need to swap some of those activities around, I can just go there into my area, swap those activities around, come back and carry on and build the process. So you can see how easy it is if you just put the comments in the chat GPT or in the generate with AI. We also have options in here to change the type. So I can say that this is actually a task. And then when I drag that over an activity, it will drop that task on top of that activity. So there you can see it dropped it in as a task. So coming back there, everything that we have in our software, you can set it. So you can add it as a note, as a web link, as a tag. So all of that information will be added in there for you. All right, so that is importing from AI or generating from AI, which is really, really amazing to get you going. And you know, just some people just need an idea of what to do, so that they don't have this blank canvas in front of them. So let me just quickly go in and I'll just delete all of those activities out. And then I'm going to show you our import features. So the first one is what I'm going to import is this document. So I'm going to show you this document. It is a lengthy Word document. It's got 9 pages. It's got a whole bunch of scopes, definitions, requirements, responsibilities, tools, and templates. So, you know, a really nice Word document. But to retype all of that is probably going to take you forever. So what we have done is we've got the ability to actually import a document. So I'm going to select the document, import it, and there all that information that I've just shown you has come into my staging area. And from there, I can drag it over to my process. So let's say I don't need that, I don't need that. Maybe I want to merge the scope. So I'll just go and say merge with the below. So you can see there the scope has come up, and then I can start drag them over and drag those activities over. That's probably not an activity. It's probably more of a note. Change that maybe to be a task, put that over there. Oh, that I've selected. Oh, sorry. I need to put it over the activity. Otherwise, it thinks that it's because we can also have a process level task. So that's one way of adding the documents in. Again, let me just delete that. Now, another document that I might have is a PDF document. So here I have another document, a few easy steps. So for this one, I'm just going to show you. I'll just drag the document over and drop it onto that area. And the same thing, there we go. It gives me all of that information. And again, I just drag it over and create the process like that. Now, this is fair enough. There's not really a lot of information. So, well, there's some information, but what I want to show you is if you have a document and that document has got images. So this document has got a bunch of forms and images that is associated with that document. So let's drag that document over. Again, it's a PDF, doesn't matter. It can be PDF or a Word, and there you go. So it will bring in all those images as well. So if I now add that as an activity, and I'm not reading to see exactly if it is an activity or not. And this one, I dragged it over as a document. Oh, come on. Screenshot, and I put another screenshot over there. All right, and I go back to my map view. So you can see there, it immediately brings those in as screenshots. And there we go. It's that easy. So you don't have to go and save the screenshot somewhere else to upload them again. It is immediately there for you to use and to import. And I think the last one that I'm quickly going to do, because we are running out of time for my presentation, we still need to do a few questions as well, is I just want to show you a Visio diagram import. So here I've got a Visio diagram. This is probably some of you are familiar with that. So again, just dragging that in there. Same thing, it adds all the information there. Now you could ask the question, well, if it's a Visio diagram, so if the diagram already looks like that, why don't we create it as a diagram in ProcessPro? So yes, the Visio import is version 1. We will work on this in over the next few months. But what we found with Visio is that there is a component. That piece there is a component. The lines is a different component, and all their components has got exactly the same IDs. So it's very difficult for us to determine to see what is the type. For instance, I'll show you a different Visio. So this process was also done in a Visio diagram. This doesn't even closely represent a normal Visio that we know, but it is a process. It's process steps. It's got multiple tabs at the bottom. So if we, for instance, if we import that document into ProcessPro, first thing is we need to know which tab. So we can say, all right, we will select that tab to import, and then it will import the information from that specific tab. And because it's not a nice map, we have to put it in the staging area so that you can, as a user, can build up the map. Cool. All right. That is the presentation. So over to see if we have a few questions, Rob.
Yeah, well, I think Carla might be writing one, but one question was ProcessPro. There's a few companies that have offices in Canada and United States. So just talk a little bit about ProcessPro as you can use multi-company for the larger organizations.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So
Thank you.
if you have, like Rob was saying, so you've got even for the big organizations where they have different business unit, business departments, and each of those business departments is run as a separate company. What you can do is you can specify them in our company list, so you can have different companies. And the nice thing about ProcessPro again is that you can determine who see which companies. So we can implement permissions to on a user level to show the different companies that you have. So yeah, absolutely. And those are separate, totally separate companies. If I only have access to the construction company, then that means I will only see the processes in that company. Even if I log in, I won't see all the list of all the companies. But if you've got the permission to see all the companies, then you can actually open that up and see those details.
Thanks, James. The next question was, does ProcessPro have its own? Can I add links that directly connect me with my folders on my hard drive, my laptop?
So those links on, I think this is the answer to that is, if you think about your hard drive or your laptop, the problem with that is that other people in the organization don't have access to your laptop. So for that reason, we don't allow, or you can't add a link from your hard drive. But what you can do is you can actually upload a document into ProcessPro. We've got a document storage area that has all the documents in for your organization. So if you have a document that sits on your local hard drive, you can import that document into ProcessPro, and then it's available in the ProcessPro cloud. Or even better, if you have a SharePoint, you can upload that document into SharePoint, and you can grab that SharePoint link and you can associate the process or that SharePoint link to ProcessPro, or any other document management system that gives you a link or a URL. You can do that, and then those documents will be available for your users in the cloud.
And how can you restrict only certain users to read those documents, James?
No, if the document is associated to a process, and the process is published, all the users in the organization can read those documents. But what you can do is from a process perspective, is you can actually take a process, and let's take this audit monthly 401k. I'm just going to take this as an example. Maybe I'll just make that a little bit smaller. Let's say we don't want the people in the organization, we only want stakeholders to be able to see this process. What we can do is we can change this process to be a private process. So when I change this to be a private process, only the people in my list of stakeholders can view that. And I can add additional people in there. So I can add Rob as the director of finance in there. I can add, who did we have? Steven Spielberg. Steven. Oh, sorry, if I can spell Steven. So we can add Steven in there. So you can decide who can see it. And that's the way that you can control that information. And let me just make me here the author, and then I can go in and I can make that private process update. And then you can see it's a private process. Also from my list there, it will change to a private process. So if you don't have access to that, you won't see that process. Yeah. A long-winded explanation
much,
for documents. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So with the viewers today, participants, if there's any more questions, now's the opportunity as we wrap up for the day. We'll just leave it for 10 seconds that you can just get into the chat session there and add your question. I think we've covered a lot today, so that's great. But what we do want to say, well, one or two people are writing, is that our aim is today is for you to recognise how important ProcessPro is a must-have application rather than nice to have. As you see some of the inefficiencies in your organisation, you'll see how we can demonstrate this for you in the next few weeks in a one-on-one. Carl has asked the question, for international companies, would there be other language options? James, if you'd like to answer that.
Yeah, so at the moment we don't have other language options. It is something that we are contemplating. We've got a few people already in Europe that we are looking at. We also need to look at the difference between the Australia/New Zealand versus Canada/US. You know, there's a few minor language things, although both of us are speaking English. It doesn't always come through like that. And I'm also conscious of the fact that there's a huge contingency of French-speaking people in Canada. So at the moment, no, the application is only available in English, but it is something that we are looking at, not for this year's roadmap, but certainly for next year's roadmap.
So effectively, the labels are all hard-coded English, but they could possibly write in French within each workflow.
Yeah, I mean
because they will understand it.
Yeah, the details that you put inside of the process name and the content that you add, absolutely. Unfortunately, the buttons and the navigation, no.
Thank you very much. Well, I think that pretty well wraps it up today, and we do appreciate everybody coming online. What we have been doing with a number of resellers around the world is we're offering one-on-one demonstrations with Asyma and yourself. You can actually present some processes that you'd like us to build for that presentation, and we're happy to do that. I know that Rob and his team at Asyma are happy to show some integrations using ProcessPro and all the advantages of using that product. And we do appreciate you coming online today and joining us. And Rob, if you'd like to wrap up for the day.
No, that was very good, guys. Good walkthrough and very thorough. I appreciate you taking the time to take everybody through ProcessPro today. And if anybody has questions, like Rob said, please reach out to myself or Rob or James, and we'd be happy to discuss with you further. So I'll leave it at that because it is lunchtime. So thanks everybody. We appreciate you taking the time to jump on today, and we'll make sure to send the recording out to everybody.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Thank you,
Rob.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Have a great day. Thanks, Rob.
Bye.